The performance of your application should always be one of your main concerns when developing any application that is going to run on many different kinds of devices. And while applications on modern phones can consume more and more resources without being laggy, it is still something important that you should keep in mind. And there is actually one very simple thing that you could do to improve your application's performance, at least when it comes to list views, very easily. I have found that when you have list views, it is easy for them to become long, as in the application example that I have right here. These list views that continue to grow and grow can easily begin to make your phone drop some frames here and there. And to solve this is actually quite easy. And like I mentioned, it is going to be harder and harder the more powerful your phones are. But I figured that since it is so easy to change this and to improve this, I would mention it. So every list view has a caching strategy by default set to retain element. So this line that I have added right here is there by default, even if you don't define the value explicitly. The default value of this property is already retain element. This means that for every single cell that is being drawn inside of this list view, all of the information is retained in memory. And you can imagine how this is not a great idea, because as you have more and more cells, all of that information is going to be stored in memory. Now I have this simple application in here and it seems to not be that hard for the application to do it, but imagine doing so with a Facebook application or a Twitter application where you have hundreds if not thousands of tweets that are being read by your user. You don't want all of that information in memory. What you want is for these cells to be reused, for the elements to be recycled with new information as it comes in. And the change is so easily performed that it's just a no-brainer to implement it. Literally, all you have to do is set caching strategy over to recycle element. There is also a recycle element and data template option in here, but this is more useful when you are generating some views with a data template selector. Now we haven't seen data template selectors yet. We're going to see that once we reach the section where we talk about bots, but just keep that in mind. So when you are using template selectors, you have a data template option in here as well. For this example though, and for most of the examples that you're going to find throughout your development career, recycle element is going to be more than enough. And so what will happen is every single time, and let me just go ahead and wait for the application to start again to make this a bit clearer. So let's say that the first time these cells get populated, you can notice that some of them are visible, some of them are not. But what happens as soon as we change this to recycle element is that, and let's just focus on this cell at the top, as soon as that cell is no longer visible, the view cell is going to be reused below. So as cells are being hidden, new cells are going to be displayed, but these cells are now going to be reusing the thing that was already in memory. They are just changing the data context in this case, displaying a different text, displaying a different image, etc. But this is going to make your lists way more efficient. The things that are going to be stored in memory are less, making your application just use less resources, which is always good. Of course, there are some scenarios where you do want all of the information to be in memory, but I do not recommend that you set this to the default retain element unless your list view has less than 20-30 elements. In that case, there is really not much of an impact in the memory resources that your application uses. So there you have it, just a simple quick lecture for you to realize that there is this property that is going to be very helpful when you create these crazy interfaces with lots of elements inside of a list view. Of course, there are many more things that you could do to improve the performance of your list views, but I believe that this is the most important one.